the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Abu Jinapor Samuel, who is also the MP for Damongo. Thank you very much for making the time to join us. We also have Professor Chris Gordon, Founding Director, Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana, joining us via Zoom. But right here in the studio, we have Kwame Jan, who is Senior Lecturer, University of Ghana School of Law, and also Chief Superintendent Azet Taraga, who is Azet Taraga Fleming, who is Director, Property Fraud Unit of the CID Headquarters. We'll have Esinam Taboto, who is former Registrar and former member of the Council, Ghana Institute of Architects. Just a few of your messages here now. Now, Primakov Yajevi says that our streets are very dark at night. We don't see each other. Our roads must be dualized. Kofi Amwa says all vehicles pay insurance, but not all vehicles get involved in accidents every year. Can the National Insurance Commission lead the insurance companies to collectively fund the towing services on our highways? Should they continue loaning or investing their premiums in government? Have good hearts. Benjamin Kesey, Nana Kesey, says, going forward, insurance companies who don't have the ability to offer towing services should have no business in the insurance sector. We pay decent money for insurance in Ghana. Asking for towing services isn't out of place. Sarcodium says the statistics of road accidents are alarming because no MP or minister has died yet. Okay, you're wrong about that. Citizen Kwesi Huntsby says road crashes, the road safety education and enforcement are extremely poor. The engineering of our roads is catastrophic. A major way to curb these crashes is to enforce road safety regulations and dualize our major highways. Matilda Boedu says, we pay so much for roadworthy, but our roads are not worthy. Aside enforcement, etc., cheap politicking also accounts for the road accidents in Ghana. Why would our leaders wait till electioneering year to complete roads which could have been completed within a year? Darrell Alan Tego says that please check those whose job it is to ensure compliance with our road traffic rules, engineers who design our roads, and the DVLA in the manner in which they certify some vehicles as roadworthy. Dr. Charles Rekubrobe says the solutions are all codified in our laws. We must enforce our laws and stop ceaseless lamentations about the worsening carnage. Why we have authorities? Okay, why do we have authorities? You wanted to ask. Prince Henry in Koforidia says, my 5 main causes of road accidents in Ghana: 1, overspeeding, you mean speeding; 2, wrong overtaking; 3, potholes, unnecessary speed ramps; 4, unavailability of road signs, no street light, faulty cars left on the road; and 5, police not doing their work well. Thank you. I've got some more, but I'll share them later. Let me speak to the minister so that he can take leave of us. He has an important assignment to attend to. Thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Abu Jinapo. Hello, Abu Jinapo.
Hello, yes, sir. Samson, thank you very much for having me.
Great. So you have started this process of ensuring that there is a collective, gathering. There are ideas that will be shared towards ensuring that we are effective at this canker. What is the new thing
Thank you very much, Samson. And please, if you allow me, let me say a very good morning to your cherished listeners, and also to a good morning and a big hello to my lecturer, Mr. Kwame Jan, is my law lecturer, and also to thank all the participants at the National Consultative Dialogue, particularly the leaders of the opposition party who actually made it a point to appear and make their contribution. We are very, very grateful to them. The new thing is that, as you rightly said, it's an age-old issue in our country. We've tried all kinds of measures. In some cases, we've chalked some achievements. But quite clearly, it's obvious that we require a more broad-based support and effort, and also the buy-in of all the stakeholders. I mean, if you understand the complexities of illegal small-scale mining, you come to the conclusion that you cannot, for instance, buy small-scale mining, for example, for not a contombra or taco or whatever, without, for instance, the support of the chief or the local government officials, without the support of the political parties, opinion leaders, and so on. So this is an attempt, first of all, to galvanize as much support as we can, number one. Number two is also to open ourselves up for more input, more ideas, and indeed what happened between the 14th and the 16th clearly indicated that the consultative platform gave us an opportunity to get to be a lot more enlightened. But let me conclude on this question, on this answer, by quickly and forcefully submitting that the consultative forum in and by itself will not be sufficient. That will not result in just small-scale mining. It will help, it will contribute. It has already engendered some sort of enthusiasm and excitement about the need for us to work together to deal with this age-old problem. It's giving us the opportunity to get into. But that in itself will not resolve it. We need a lot more, which is we need to implement the resolutions of the competitive dialogue. We need to strengthen the enforcement regime. We need to reform the Minerals Commission. We need to reform our policies. We need to make other interventions. So this is what I would say. What is new is that we are seeking to bring everybody on board.
Right. So we got the consultative dialogue issuing a communique and describing illegal mining, which is popularly known as Galamsey, as a national emergency that requires urgent and concerted efforts. So my question is, this is not new. I've heard this over and again, particularly when President Akufo-Addo took over in his first term and then, bought into the media campaign and took it over in a way that got all the commendation, groundswell of support from everywhere. This communique regurgitates to us the things we know. They say Galamsey, has caused the worst forms of pollution and contamination of water bodies. We know all this. The water company had told us that if we are not careful in the next 5-10 years, we are going to have to be importing, buying water and all of that. So what is new? The operation that was put in, why are we taking a new step? Don't we know the solutions already?
Yeah, so first of all, the effort was made in the first term of President Akufo-Addo yielded some results. I want to make the point you make forcefully. I don't accept the conclusion that everything that happened under President Akufo-Addo in his first term was entirely good in respect of small-scale mining. Neither was everything entirely bad. Some societies were achieved. There are lessons we can learn out of the first term effort. I mean, if you allow me, for instance, the introduction of the concept of community mining, training of small-scale mining, the whole legal regime, amending some of the laws, enacting new ones, or the punishment regime for foreigners to get themselves involved in small-scale mining, the use of equipment, so many other things. But there are also some steps ought to be reviewed. What is new? What is new is that we've never had the occasion where you have, for instance, almost all the political parties gathered under one roof and making the clear assertion to the country that we are united in the policies regarding small-scale mining, which is that we support lawful, regulated, environmentally sound small-scale mining, and we discard with illegal small-scale mining, which degrades our environment. I think that in itself is significant. And I've already said that alone will not resolve illegal small-scale mining in our country. It requires a lot more action, which is why, God willing, on Monday we are going to establish an implementation team that will see to the implementation of all the resolutions. And for instance, the resolution which was passed, which we all know, I should admit, that the enforcement regime and the punishment related to gas smokers, we enforced and enforced the letter that we should name and shame and punish people who are in government, or who are chiefs, or who are religious leaders, or who are influenced, but who are involved in illegal small-scale mining. And I should say something. Don't give me that as a minister, if any such issue come to my attention, I will quickly refer you to the law enforcement agency to be able to deal with it without fear or favor. So that for me is quite new. The fact that we're able to bring literally all the stakeholders who have a connection or some connection or relevance to the effort to root out illegal small pitches were there, political parties were there, society organizations were there, media people were there. But let me also add that the business of dealing with illegal small pitches, yes, the government of the day has responsibility. We are not going to share it. We are accountable for our stewardship in respect of this area. But we all have a role in the media. For instance, in the run-up to the election, the nature with which all of us approach illegal small-scale mining in respect of the elections and the policy. I'm not sure that a lot more people put the critical issues on the table. Should we allow small-scale mining to be a subject matter of partisan electoral policy? So we all have responsibilities in this endeavor.
Okay, this thing about what has been done in the last 4 years, training miners in the best methods of mining, introducing community mining, enacting additional regulatory legislation, and so on. The president, when he spoke at the dialogues, said I called for a national discourse on the long-standing issue of illegal small-scale mining in our country. The reality is that illegal small-scale mining remains a major problem. What do you say to those who say the president and his own men put the biggest dampener on this particular fight? They refer to the Aisha Huang matter. They refer to an operative in the presidency who Anas Arameya's video captured as having actually sabotaging the process. They refer to the professor who was in charge of the interministerial and the minister then, and the allegations that came at him, excavators that were said to be missing, and all of that. And they say, so what are you talking about? You're wasting our time. What do you say to them?
We are certainly not wasting your time. And the president is right that it remains a major issue. Well, I don't even know how to. But first of all, the complexities of this industry is one that I believe we should all be courageous and sincere to admit. It's a very complex industry. You've mentioned you've mentioned politicians who are alleged to be involved in illegal small-scale mining, or who are complicit, or who are promoters of illegal small-scale mining. I'm not going to question if there are politicians who are involved in illegal small-scale mining. If we get the evidence, and if we have evidence on the table, we should have the courage to deal with it. But there are other sectors of our national life, other costs of our national life, who are very much involved. I went to a program in my home region of Havana, and a question was put to me, an issue was put on the table about the harvesting of roast pork. And I made the point that government has a role to play, the police have a role to play, law enforcement agencies have a role to play, but the police also have a role to play. Because I've been around enough to know that a foreign national or a chainsaw operator cannot bump into a forest or cannot get into the space to harvest those. If you want to answer a question without the factual or constructive consent of the chief, it is just not possible, or the opinion leaders, or the influencers in the community. It's the same thing for small-scale mining. You cannot have small-scale mining thrive in our community if the society rises up to say this is not an industry we will allow to prevail. It will not happen. So I'm not shirking the responsibility. I'm not passing the responsibility. But the point I'm making is that government has a role. There's no doubt about it, and can be rest assured that the president is very resolved in dealing with this matter. I have a role as a minister. All of us have roles. But I should say that it requires the support of all the time, which is why this national competitive dialogue is so important.
Okay, so finally, I'll have you take leave of us because we understand that you have pressing national assignment to attend to. So what is the assurance that whatever is the outcome of this new approach will bring an end to the situation? Because look, it must end. The rhetoric must stop.
Yes, you are right. The rhetoric must stop. There's absolutely no two ways about that. The talk without action will not resolve anything. I'm not too sure we can be talking about an end or an eradication. Knowing the nature of this industry, I'm not too sure. I think it would be a bit over-ambitious to suggest a thing that you can eradicate. And also knowing that whatever you have extractive industry everywhere in the world, you have problems with illegality. Ghana, we call it galamsey. In South Africa, they call it zamazama. The big issue there, the big issue in Australia, the big issue in Canada. But there are places where they have managed it to reasonable levels or tolerable situation. There are several of such examples. Now, we will. The assurance you can get from me and what matter from government is that whatever is required to be done in substantive terms, at least on the part of government, you can be rest assured that it will be done. But I should conclude by emphasizing, and keep emphasizing that it will not take the effort of the president alone, it will not take the effort of the sector minister, it will not take the effort of the government alone. It will take the collective effort of the nation. And if you understand the industry of legal small scale, and those who understand, we certainly will appreciate the point I made. That we require all hands on deck, require a critical mass to say enough is enough in legal small scale mining. We don't want it in our community. We want to mine, let's do it responsibly, let's in a regulated fashion, with having regard to the environment and so on and so forth. If you don't have that, you can send the military into the community, you can send police, you can put in place all the measures. I'm afraid to say that we will not achieve the required result. But on the part of government and on my part, as a sector minister, no model, take it for granted. Whatever has to be done, certainly will be done in integrity.
Right, Samuel Abujinapo, we can only wish you the very best, because from what we have gathered, listening to people like Inus Afuseni being blunt about how the underworld of this galamsey business can take you on, we can only wish you the best, but be assured that you have our support to ensure that you should do without fear or favor. People want to make wealth at the expense of our future and the future of our forests and our children, and we shouldn't allow that to happen. The president said he would put his presidency on the line. Unfortunately, people have not been too excited about how it has been delivered. So we wish you the very best.
That is so kind of you, Samson, but please permit me to just make a quick point on the president putting his presidency on the line. And I think it's very important we explain that. When the president said he put his presidency on the line, he meant it, and he did put his presidency on the line. And just go and check the results of the 2020 election. If
he had put his presidency on the line, what did he do to the senior minister? The senior minister is closest to him than anybody else. He's giving him what did he do to him? The comments that he made, the president simply suggested they were regrettable. That's not the best way to deal with such a damning statement that destroyed what he stood for.
Something with the greatest of respect, let me disagree with you on that. I mean, that's a question of interpreting or the which is based on what the Chief Minister said and what you think ought to have been done. But that is the issue. I'm saying that when
I'm saying, Samuel, I'm saying that the president said this was regrettable. He issued a statement and got us to know that this was regrettable. I'm saying that as president, he should have done more. And the people expected him to have fired him for that, comment that we stood to benefit from the kingpin of Galamsey, who had been arrested and let go. What benefit is that?
We don't have to argue on this. I appreciate your passion with regards to illegal small-scale mining. I respect that. That's good. Do you think you should have fired him? The president thinks it was regrettable. You can agree on that. But I'm saying that when the president says he put his presidency on the line and check the results of 2020, clearly President indeed put his presidency on the line. You check the results of the mining community. Almost all the constituencies of the mining community, NPP lost. And all those constituencies could as well desire to save his presidency by looking elsewhere and allowing illegal small-scale mining to thrive, and probably would have gotten more votes there and protected his presidency that he did. So that's what he meant by putting his presidency on the line. But on the specific issue of the senior minister and what he said and what should have been done, the president felt it was regrettable. Do you think he should have fired him? I think we can agree to disagree on that.
Okay. No, but even the gentleman in the presidency, when the announced video came out, the people expected that he would fire him, but he allowed him to resign from the committee, and he was still working under the presidency. And this is how people feel. It's not really about me.
Yeah, but a man, a lawyer and a respected one at that. Shouldn't a man have to say in court? Shouldn't he have the opportunity to put up a defense? He be punished on the basis of allegations. But anyway, I'm not interested in getting the nitty-gritties of this match. What is important is the new atmosphere we want to engender in our country in respect of gas Muslim mind. That's what I'm interested in now.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you.
And we will pledge, this platform will pledge its support fully for that program. I'm
extremely grateful. That's so kind of you.
Thank you very much. Samuel Abu-Jinapor is Minister Lands and Natural Resources and MP Damongo. Now let me begin with Professor Chris Gordon, Founding Director, Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies, University of Ghana, has had to advise the state at various levels on how to ensure that we don't destroy our environment. The way that Galamsey has been, on the rampage, and we've been treating the worst of the crimes in this area with kid gloves, like people have seen. What does he have to say about how to faithfully and concretely tackle this situation? Professor Chris Gordon, what do you have to say?
Well, first of all, I'll say thank you for having me and the opportunity to address this platform. And I'll give a submission in 3 parts. First of all, the basics, what I consider to be the root causes of drivers, and finally the solutions.
Okay.
But first, I'd like to pick up from where the road safety people were talking. They emphasize the need for education. And that, I think, is paramount. Because if people knew what Galamsey was doing to us in real terms, in terms of our fertility, in terms of our birth defects, in terms of our loss of fertility, if the women, and I'm wearing a Volta Hall shirt, I'm a honorary member of Volta, very sensible women, if we can educate the women, because most of these dialogues tend to focus only on the men, but if the women know what the real causes are, I think we'll have change. Now, let me go to the basics, and I'll start off with a point that the minister made, that this is not a problem for some. It is not a problem for him as a minister, for the His Excellency, the President. It concerns everybody. It's a problem for all, whether you have illegal mining in your district or not. I'd also like to correct something. We talk about small-scale illegal mining. The illegal mining that is taking place is no longer small-scale. It is mechanized. It is not the man with his shovel and his basin for sieving the gold, winning the gold that is in operation. We are talking about semi-industrial and industrial scale mining. The third thing is that I would tend to disagree with the minister on the fact that there's any innovation, because we could even say this atmosphere of hope, we had it earlier on when the media launched its campaign against Galamsey. And since the 1930s, when it was realized that this could be an issue, we've had successive interventions and dialogues. We had the asset dialogue in 2014, we had IIED in 2016, we had the, what is it, I'm looking at the document now, the Multi-Sectorial Mining Integrated Project, MMIP, document 2017. We have many documents, dialogues, which are pushing the fact that it is unsustainable, it is frankly idiotic for this country to pursue small-scale mining the way it is done now. We have a group at the University of Ghana called the UG Mining Research Group. And it's not just geophysicists, geologists, environmentalists. We have people from literature, people from theater arts, because the only way you can solve this problem is by using a holistic approach.
Okay.
And this is what we have failed to do. We have failed to do this. So now I'll go to some of the root causes. And again, the minister has spoken to some of them. And if you have copies of the president's speech and the communique, you find they come up. But the first is giving people responsibility without the authority and means to exert that responsibility. I'm talking about root causes.
Okay.
You have criminality in the face of impunity. That is, you can do anything and get away with it. The lack of love of country, and this is mentioned in the president's speech when he says, we do not need special interest groups to campaign for the protection of the Ghanaian soil, flora, and fauna. It is we, the Ghanaian people, who must be the best protectors. So the point made about illegal mining taking place in a traditional authority area or a district area, and nobody seems to know anything about it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And the fourth of the root cause is greed. Simple, undisguised greed. And there's a fifth issue, and that is the value system that we have in the country now when it comes to what is right, what is moral, and what is ethical. Now, you realize that I haven't talked about anything regarding the environment yet. Because all of these things are well established in many documents, repeated and repeated and repeated. So it's not as if we don't know what the problem is. We do not know what the ultimate cost will be, because we know right now that there are chemicals which are causing a generational shift in fertility of men, to the extent that male genital size is shrinking. This is published. This is not one of these things you hear in the market that if they shake your hand, something will happen to you. This is established fact that the human body is changing as a result of all the pollution we are putting in it. But as I said, we know all the causes, the problems and issues. So what is the solution?
Right.
The first solution is that we have to devolve the responsibility and give power to those who have the responsibility. So obviously this has to go down to the district level. It is the district that must control this. It is the traditional authorities who need to be part of how these things are run. Yes, you can have a national plan of action, you can have a national consensus, but when things are happening on the ground, you deal with the people who are closest to the problem if you want it solved. The second thing is we need to follow the money. We have people who are extremely rich in this country, and nobody cares or knows how they got that money, so long as they give tithe at church. So long as they do some social responsibility in terms of what they give to the community. But nobody asks them if the way they acquired that money has actually caused more harm to the community than the pittance that they give. The second point I would like to raise is that we need to tax instantaneous wealth. We have all sorts of people on social media platforms, I don't want to say bragging or whatever, because it's their right to do whatever they want. But if you're living in a country which has empowered you to be able to acquire wealth, you need to pay the appropriate tax to the government for providing that space for you to acquire that wealth. But if the tax regime is not being effected comprehensively, and we are only relying on people who have government jobs, in quotes, or some large industries, I believe the mining sector pays the largest tax, to provide that taxation, you'll find that people will stop, in quotes, showing off and then misleading our youth in that this is the way human beings are supposed to live.
Right.
The third point I'd like to, this is my penultimate point, is that we need to value the true cost of this environmental degradation, not just for the current generation, but for future. Many countries have now gone into the process of remediation, i.e. they engage in some sort of activity and now they have to fix it. And when they're calculating the total cost of remediation, i.e. trying to correct the problem that has been caused by an industry, they find out that the cost of remediation is actually about 4 to 5 times the benefit they got financially from the original industry. They would have been far better off not even starting it. Because basically what we are doing now is mortgaging the future of our citizens. So someone like me of my age, past 60, is not so much of a big problem. But what's the cost to my kids, my grandkids? But because we are greedy and we are selfish, we don't even think about 10 years. We are thinking just about what I can get today. But the last point that I would like to raise in the solution is that anybody who has had a child before, and I'm not trying to imply that the Ghanaian public are equivalent to children, but if a child has something that is dangerous, like a knife, I'm talking about a 2-year-old, and you take that knife from the child will cry.
That's right.
And have a tantrum. So before you take anything away, you make sure you have a viable alternative that you can give so that things can continue. So we need to create viable economic opportunities for the youth who are engaged in this, because the sad thing about all of this Galamsey issue is that the youth, the young people whose education is disrupted, the girls who are going into teenage prostitution, unwed mothers, school girls who are giving birth, absent fathers, all of these issues are impacting a certain class of society. And the fat cats, the big men who are wearing plaid shirts and suits and things like some of the people in your studio, are the ones enjoying, and they do not risk anything. They sit and collect. So the Galamsey, which is gather and sell, is really not the issue on the ground. It is those big people, male, female, national and foreign, who are benefiting from the blood, sweat and tears of underprivileged and marginalized people in our community. And that is morally totally wrong. Thank you.
Professor Chris God, I am very certain that having listened to you up to this point, I clearly don't have any question to ask you. And I think that you have dealt with the matter in such a manner that perhaps the only question I will ask is, yes, so why are we where we are? What you're talking about, don't we know about the criminality in the face of impunity, the lack of love for country, you know, giving people responsibility without authority and without the means, and you know, the people who are really benefiting, and you say this is no more small scale, it's at such a big scale, and we have come to appreciate all of this. Before we started this show, I had to do a legal education because we have celebrities, quote unquote, who have millions of our youth who respect and take every word of theirs. But see how ignorantly they have gone about a small punishment, not even a quarter of what the court should hand out to this lady, and they are all going berserk. So how do we achieve what you are talking about?
You know, that is a difficult question because I have become very cynical. You see, when you talk about role models and leadership, we all look to government. And I'll give you a very simple example. And I'm glad my good friend Kwame Jang is in the, he actually started our environmental law teaching at our environmental science program back in 1998, I think we started that program.
He's been taking note as you speak, copiously.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, he is an upright lawyer, and maybe he can give you a better reason why Ghana has lost its path. But back in 2008, the University of Ghana was 60 years old, and the then president, His Excellency John Kufuor, gave us a birthday present of 60 million cedis to be dispersed over 10 years at 6 million cedis a year. And half of that was supposed to create the institute that I was the former director of. I can say this now as I'm no longer the director. Unfortunately, they lost power. That is the government of the day that gave the pledge. But the subsequent president, Jonathan Mills, honored the promise and gave us 50% of the first year of that 3 million cedis, which in those days was equivalent to $3 million. But since 2000, I think that was done in 2009. From 2009 to date, i.e. over the past 10 years, over both the main political parties' governments, not one government has honored that pledge, despite going to the highest levels of government to say, please, you promised us this money. Through various means, we've managed to survive, and actually we have one of the largest PhD programs right now in environmental science in the whole of West Africa. But what could we have done more if the pledge was honored? So it comes down to the fact that if we need to have moral leadership, it has to start from somewhere. Somebody has to step up and say, this is right, this is wrong, this is what we stand for. I have often asked my students, when you talk about the Swiss, what youth comes to mind? They'll say punctuality. When you talk about Germans, precision. When you talk about Ghanaians, then there's a pause, there's hesitancy. Now you think you're about, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Now, what is our national character? What does the world recognize Ghanaians for? If we can answer that question in the positive, then I'll say we are starting the path. But as I said, I'm very cynical. I've been doing this now for 35 years plus. I've seen many, many governments. I've developed many government policies. We have beautiful documents. We have fantastic dialogues. When it comes to on-the-ground implementation, Ghana always seems to fall. We can get to the Olympics. We can even get to the finals of the 100 meters. But then what happens? We are our own worst enemies. Thank you.
Okay. So I don't know how else he could have put it. He's finished the discussion. We are done.
He's a professor.
You want to make some brief comments on this, and then we take a break and come to talk about. I've seen that you've already started annotating the Land Act. I don't know what we should do with you. Yes.
So I should go ahead comment on what Prof said.
Yeah.
I am not surprised when it is coming from Prof. Chris Gordon. He and I have been associated for many years, trying to build the environmental science program at the University of Ghana. And all I would say is that I fully associate with the erudite presentation from my learned senior colleague. It couldn't have come at a better time than this. What I would add is that the new minister, who I am proud to say, as he has already stated, was my student in the School of Law in Legon. I think the new minister is bringing a fresh sense of drive and robustness. And I think for me, that is what is new.
Right.
He comes in at a time where there's a policy shift from an interministerial coordinating entity to a refocusing of the fight against illegal mining at the natural ministerial home, that is the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. And I think with this refocusing and positioning the fight at the organic location and the fresh drive and robustness, we should see some different results. That's what I will say for now.
Okay. I must disclose, he approached me long before and said, we need everybody on board. What role can you play? What can you do to help? Professor Chris Gordon, we can't thank you enough. I'm sure that the millions of Ghanaians who watch this program and listen will be chewing on what you have just done. And I'm sure that the duty bearers are also watching and listening. Thank you so very much, Professor Chris Gordon. We'll take a break and return to look at our finishing part of the land law with such promise. Be right back. As you can hear, that is the sound of gunshots.